G'day, I'm Sean and welcome to the CarExpert Podcast. It's another week and another price cut from Tesla. So if you've just bought a Model Y or a Model 3, maybe go back and ask them for some money back. But we've got James joining us and Scott's away this week. So Josh is here again. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I don't own a Tesla, so I'm in a pretty good place financially. What about you guys? You haven't bought any Teslas recently, have you?
No, but I mean, it's not just Tesla. There are a lot of crazy cuts going on around the place.
Isn't it? We're going to talk about a bit of that today because we're going to try and find a way to save you guys some money on an end of financial year deal. We're also talking about the new Kia Sorento hybrid facelift that's just arrived, and we're also going to talk about the Santa Fe. And James is here to tell us all about the new Chery iPhone 8 Pro Max or whatever it is.
Tiggo 8 Pro Max.
Tiggo 8 Pro Max that he was driving last week when he wasn't here. So let's dive right in. It's end of financial year, as most of you probably know, especially if you are running a small business or have to do a tax return. And we, on our website, have a list of all the best end of financial year deals. But what we've done to make it even easier for you is we've put it all here in the podcast, some of the best deals currently listed from manufacturers around the country. Now, we've not bothered with any of the finance offers. That's sort of a manufacturer thing. But these are just prices, drive-away deals on run-out models from MY23. A couple of MY22s still floating around from people like Honda who haven't been able to move all their stock on. But we're going to run through it. So we'll pass over to James first. And he's going to run us through some of the deals from GWM.
All right. So we've got the GWM Cannon from $34,990 drive-away in 4x2, guys.
That's a really cheap ute these days.
Yeah. And then the 4x4 base is $36,490 drive-away. The Canon L is $39,490 drive-away. So all of them are savings of between $1,000 and $4,000. And that's already off a pretty cheap car.
So the L's the top spec. That's like the Primo one, isn't it?
I think there's a higher spec. There's another one up there. There's Canon X and there's Canon L and there's Canon something else. They've all got like a dash and then a letter and I can't remember which one is which. And then they've also got the GWM Haval Jolion Hybrid, which is now on sale from $33,990 drive away, which is a saving of between $3,000 and $4,000, which I found really interesting because for the longest time we've seen a lot of manufacturers not gouge, but bump up the pricing or inflate the pricing of electrified models given the strong demand. And, I think for Haval, their hybrids have been in very high demand for a while. So to see that they've got like leftover stock that people aren't buying, because Jolion hybrids are everywhere at the moment.
They are. You do see them all over the road. And you can tell they've got it because they've got a blue Haval badge. So
and the lights are slightly different as well. So they're normally taxis and various things. A lot of people are driving them these days, so I was surprised to see that. And the GWM Tank 300 has had almost $3,000 cut off its base hybrid version, which is now $52,990 drive away.
So and then that's a lot of car for the money in the hybrid, and compared to the non-hybrid version, this one seems to be a bit better handling, better under emergency braking, as we found out.
It's got that extra weight of the battery in the boot to keep it on its rear axle.
Yeah, exactly. But for all of these, I mean, if you're young, maybe not on a huge income, and you're looking to get into that hybrid space, I mean, GWM has some really good value propositions there with some pretty decent hybrid tech that could get you started on your electrification journey. All right, I'm going to come back to you, James, for Ford because I know you like that car. But I'll pass over to Josh to tell us what's going on with Honda.
Yeah, so Honda are doing some deals on ZR-V and CR-V with unlimited kilometre warranty and 5 services for $199 each. And the pricing starts from $43,990 drive away. And then we've got Nissan with the Navara. They're doing savings of up to $6,000. And they're doing Leafs from $39,990 drive away.
Now, we already knew they'd slashed a ton of money out of Leaf. We spoke about that on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. But to get in a base model 4x4 Navara for around $47,000 drive away, that is a bargain.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the twin turbo 2.3 litre. With all the off-road credentials to it. I mean, it's not a Warrior, but that's a lot of car for the money.
Absolutely, and it still looks good. I think ute buyers like the look of a tough truck, right? And the Navara sort of has that sort of boxy, bluff look that I think a lot of people like about the Ranger, but it's $20,000 cheaper than a similarly specified Ranger or whatever. So, I think that's a really good deal as well. Now, back to Ford now. Is it my turn again?
Because I know you like the Ford Puma. So
I love the Ford Puma, and it's such a shame that we're losing the combustion-powered ones. They've been basically discontinued in Australia, and we're waiting for the facelifted electric one to come out, which technically hasn't been revealed yet. They've revealed the petrol ones, but not the electric one.
Right, so it doesn't actually exist, but it exists.
Well, we know it's coming. Ford's been very candid. They've called it the Gen E or something like that. It's coming here at the end of the year. So we know it's coming. We just don't know what it looks like. Well, we sort of know what it looks like.
I'm sure it'll look like a Puma with an electric.
I imagine so. But one of the run-out deals that they're having is that the mid-spec sporty ST line is now on sale from 50. That would be very expensive.
That would be too much.
Yeah, sorry, I read the wrong number first. 35 to 50 drive away, which is a saving of a couple of grand as well. I think once with retail pricing and options, those cars could start approaching 40. So that's a few grand off. And that's a great little car, really fun to drive, looks cool, European made as well. So yeah, that's a good little thing.
And the ST line, that's like the sports base, got like the sporty seats and the bigger wheels.
Yeah, and it's got a lowered suspension, some really nice bits in there that sort of make it feel a little bit more elevated than the base ones.
I mean, probably an underrated car because, we know that Ford sell lots of Ranger, lots of Everest, and about 5 other cars in a year, and the Puma's one of them. But the ST line products have always been quite good. I remember when they brought out the Focus ST line, and that was in that sort of last generation Focus. It was a ripper little car. It wasn't quite as firecracking as an RS, but it was a good little car.
And that's the thing, for most normal people, if you're driving it to the city, you can sort of get that RS ST experience, but have it something that's livable and usable day to day. And that's exactly what most of their European cars do or did. Now that a lot of them are dead here now.
Yeah. Well, a European car that's not dead is Peugeot. So James, tell us about Peugeot, because we have covered this on the podcast, but now they've got more deals going.
Yeah. So in the latest round of cuts for their pricing, Peugeot's announced a run-out deal for the 3008 GT Sport plug-in hybrid, which is normally 82,000 plus on-road costs, which is a lot of money. So you're looking at almost 90 drive away at that point. And then they're now selling it for 69,990 drive away. So that's a huge saving.
Like $12,000 or $13,000 off. I mean, that's
probably
that's drive away too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's probably between 15 and 20 depending on your state. And this one is also subject to FEV incentives, FBT exemptions. So that's a pretty good deal, and that definitely makes that car a little bit more attractive. At the original pricing, it was just far too much. But now that it's sort of in that space, it's pretty powerful, very luxurious inside, looks really cool. But there is also an all-new one coming very soon, which looks even more out there and will be all electric. So it'll be interesting to see what they do next too.
I'm sure that'll have quite a hefty price tag on it. I'm just curious, before we move on, how do manufacturers like Peugeot manage to take so much off the price? Are they taking the hit themselves, or is there just that much fat built into the car originally?
That's a really good question. I couldn't necessarily tell you. I know with Peugeot, they're distributed by a third-party distributor here, and so perhaps there's a little bit more profit margin baked into the asking price, because the way Peugeot's positioned in Australia, it's a bit more premium than what they do overseas in Europe. Like in Europe and the UK, they're often sort of aligned with what Volkswagen's pricing would be. And when you look at what like a high-spec Tiguan is, even with petrol-to-petrol comparisons, the Peugeot like for like is always a little bit more expensive. With these price cuts, though, it could mean that things are changing for them as well. They might be thinking we need to realign or reassess where we sit in the market relative to our rivals. So, they did the massive $25,000 cut off the E2008 a few weeks ago. They've done this as well. There's a number of other deals on their website. The cars are actually pretty good, and they're kind of cool. They're a bit different if you want something that's a little bit different. So yeah, it's interesting to see that they're able to take this much money off, because I don't know where that money's coming out of.
Someone's pocket, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But thankfully not the customers, which is great. All right, if you're not so keen on the Navara, you like a more premium ute, Josh, you have a Mazda to tell us about.
BT50, they're kicking off with $49,990 drive away deals, and the SP trim is $64,670. And that's up to 10 grand off, depending on your state and if you're an ABN holder or not.
Yeah, that's a lot off. I mean, granted, the BT50 is probably getting a little bit older now comparative to Ranger, and I think they've just updated the D-Max. But I mean, that's like $49,990 for the XT. That's a pretty good deal. If you're a tradie, Like that's a ripper deal to get into.
And the SP for 65 drive away is pretty good too. When you think like a D-Max X-Terrain has long been, 65 drive away for a while. You've now got something that's equivalent and, same sort of price as a top spec Triton or a mid spec Ranger, that kind of thing. So it's definitely very competitive.
Yeah. And then finally, SsangYong, if you're in the market for a cheaper ute, but something rugged. I mean, I've always liked SsangYongs, but they've got their bloody big sale they call it, which I think is a fantastic marketing name. Musso, James, tell us about that.
Yeah. So their savings between $2,000 and $6,000 depending on whether you're a private or ABN buyer. So the top spec now is $46,500 drive away for private buyers, and they're also doing $3,000 off the drive away price on MY24 models for ABN holders. So like with the Chinese stuff we were talking about before, already very good value, pretty cheap utes, and I think their Rextons and stuff are also subject to some of these sales. And you're getting quite a substantial amount off an already very solid value offering. So I think it'll be interesting to see if people start taking them up.
I mean, what do you guys think? I find SsangYong's kind of an underrated brand. I mean, they're sort of Korea's third and forgotten car manufacturer, but I think they're quite underrated. What do you guys think of them?
I never see them.
No?
I can't say the last time I've seen a SsangYong on the road, and I'd be interested to know actually how many they sell.
Yeah,
not a great deal.
Yeah, they do okay. Like I think for me the Rexton and the Musso stand out as like really good offerings. The Musso's kind of a bit funny looking, a bit uncomfortable looking to me, but the Rexton, especially when you think about what that offers equivalent capability to or competitive capability to, I think it's nicer than say like a Pajero Sport. The Pajero Sport's getting really long in the tooth now. It's far cheaper than an Everest. It's probably better than a Fortuner as well, and you can get them for pretty well decked out for under 50 grand drive away, and that's a lot of car for the money. So definitely underappreciated. I think their rebranding thing is still going a little bit funny with that KE Mobility stuff. And we don't get all of the things that the Korean market gets. So hopefully they sort of take a leaf out of Hyundai and Kia's book and start bringing more of the cool things or like the flagship tech that they offer overseas. They start bringing it here as well because they've got some cool things in the pipeline.
Well, if any of those deals interest you, there are a stack more. Head to Help Me CarExpert on Google and we'll take you to the CarExpert website and you can see all these deals. You can search for the car you like. There are deals across almost everything at the moment for run out. Most of these until June 30. So if you are looking to make a purchase before the end of financial year, check out Help Me CarExpert. And if you do use the service, let us know. Leave a comment. Let us know how it was. We'd love to hear how seamless your experience was. All right, guys. Kia Sorento hybrid facelift. Now, we've had Sorento hybrids for a while. This is not exactly a new thing, but they've updated it, and with the update comes a bit of a jump in price as well. So, James, do you want to just tell us a little bit of a bit of background on the Sorento hybrid facelift?
Yeah, so the story came from me quite late at night because I realized that they very quietly announced all the details, and there's not a huge change other than what we've already seen from the Sorento range. So it gets a revised design, you get some of the new tech that we're starting to see across the rest of their range. But they finally brought out the hybrid in GT line trim in front wheel drive and all wheel drive guys like they had previously, and they're subject to about $3.5 grand price increases. So it starts from about $70,000 for the front wheel drive and $73,000 for the all wheel drive. It has a 1.6 litre turbocharged hybrid drivetrain, which we're starting to see across a lot more Hyundai and Kia products. It's good for about 5.5 litres per 100 Ks on official testing. I know you have something to say about that.
I do.
But it still sort of sits in a very unique position. Now that Hyundai's got the Santa Fe hybrid, it's sort of going to shake things up a little bit. But in terms of direct rivals, it's got like the Kluger, the Santa Fe.
Not many. There's
and
not
that's
a whole
pretty
lot.
much it. Yeah.
It is a big car to have a 1.6 litre engine in it. And I know in our experience driving the previous generation, or the pre-facelift model, I mean, we couldn't get it below sort of 8 litres per 100 and we're on a highway for 1,500 Ks. So maybe the engine's too small, maybe they've refined a bit more, maybe it's just not great for highway driving. But I'm curious to see how the Santa Fe is going to go because the Santa Fe is coming out with the same specs but more expensive. So Josh, I'm curious from you, you spent a lot of time in marketplace, talking to dealers. If you were going to go out and looking for one of these cars, I mean, what's the sort of things you should be looking for as a buyer when it comes to considering a hybrid or a big SUV hybrid especially?
Well, from discussions I've been having with dealers recently, it seems like people really need to understand their needs. So if you don't need 7 seats, then there's not really much point buying a 7-seat SUV to begin with. So that's one major point. And then looking to get the best value you can as well. So I've been talking about trade-in quite a lot recently and how people can maximize their trade-in value. And it's simple things, but they really do add up. So keeping all your documents, keeping all your service receipts, things like that, all your repair work documented, it doesn't cost you anything, but it can make you a lot of money at the trade-in table.
Unless you're trading in a Tesla, of course. So if you had a previous gen Sorento hybrid or a previous gen Sorento, do you guys think it's worth considering looking at the upgrade with the facelift or going to a Santa Fe, or just you think at this point in time, purely based on the numbers, it'd be better just to hang on to what you've got.
I think with the pre-facelift one, unless you really want the new tech that's in the new one, it's not probably not worth it, because it's pretty much it's the same car underneath. Like the drivetrain, everything, it's all pretty much the same. It's a minor refresh in terms of the aesthetics and a lot of it's very visual and trimmy, unless you really want like the new infotainment system and some of the driver assist tech. But the previous one was already pretty good with that. So, if you think there's going to be gains in efficiency or performance or anything like that, there's not going to be any of those things. So I think it's still a great car. The packaging's great. I think what Sean was saying before about fuel economy is understanding your needs, and that sort of plays into Josh's comment as well. These are the hybrids are designed to maximize efficiency in town. So a lot of people with 7-seat SUVs are going to do the school run or shopping trips and things like that. This is perfect for that, because you can do a lot of EV heavy driving in those. You'll save yourself a lot of fuel. But if you're going to be spending a lot of time out on the highway, the diesel is still the pick, and that will easily outdo the hybrid in terms of efficiency on the open road. So understanding what you need and what your driving habits are will be key to that.
And I guess out of curiosity, feel free to, stay out of this one, but would you take Sorento, Santa Fe, or Kluger hybrid if you were picking one?
I'm taking Santa Fe from a value perspective. I really like the new design. I've seen comments on our website, it's quite polarizing.
Yeah, it's a bold stance,
everyone.
Josh.
But yeah, I really like it. And I think, it's got all the modern tech. It comes in at a little bit cheaper, especially the starting price at about $55. I think it's a great deal.
James?
I have to see the Santa Fe in person, because like Josh said, the design is quite polarizing, but it sort of gives off that old like Discovery 3, Discovery 4 vibe, and inside and out actually, because it's got a lot of those design elements inside and out. So I'll be interested to see how the drivetrain translates to that bigger, boxier body, because the Santa Fe I think is grown quite a bit in size and weight.
It's very much a brick on wheels, isn't it?
Yeah, so I would need to drive one first, but I think that the newness of the Santa Fe, and also the fact that, like Josh said, it's available in a number of different variants, that makes it more attractive, because you don't have to spend top dollar for everything with all the fruit. You can get a really good value, lower or mid spec, but have that hybrid efficiency in there if that's something that's important to you.
Well, what would you guys pick? Kluger, Santa Fe, or Sorento? Leave a comment and let us know. All right, James. Time to tell us you went on a little trip last. Well, it wasn't that much of a trip, was it? It's just down the road. But,
almost.
You went to check out the Chery Tiggo 8 Pro Max. I'm never going to get this right.
Yeah, I was almost waiting to go into like an Apple keynote speech and have them be like, the new Tiggo 8 Pro Max.
We've revolutionized the car.
We've made the cameras bigger, the shutter speed faster. I need to stop turning on these voices. I do this way too much. These people don't see me on my desk. But yeah, so the Tiggo 8 Pro Max is Chery's latest model. So they've got the Automotive 5 and the Tiggo 7 Pro already. The Tiggo 8 Pro Max, so they just add numbers and words at this point. It's sort of like their flagship 7-seat SUV in Australia for now. They've just revealed some other one. I think they've got a Tiggo 9 that's been revealed for China, which is bigger again, but for now we're sticking with the Tiggo 8. So it's a 3-row SUV, probably about the same size as the Mitsubishi Outlander. It's just over 4.7 meters long, and it starts at $41,990 drive away, which is pretty sharp.
Dirt cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap, and on top of that, like the drivetrain is a turbocharged 2-liter petrol engine with benchmark outputs for the class, especially at that price point. I sat in the second and third rows and found it to be more roomy than an X-Trail or an Outlander 7-seater. And the base one is already very well kitted out. The top spec one is $47,990 drive away. And you get some like interesting things there, like the option of like a brown leatherette interior and like a fragrancing system for the aircon, like you get in like some Mercs and BMWs. But I think what they have shown is Chery's been very upfront about acknowledging the fact that they've had some software niggles and all those kind of things. And they're really working hard to improve every single product. And I did the Tiggo 7 launch, and I've briefly driven the Automotive 5, and I'm also across what everyone else has said about them. And this one was very much their most well-rounded product yet, to the point where I would actually say to somebody, if you want an alternative and you want something that's a lot cheaper, it might be worth looking at this. Chery's also got a really good warranty program. They're working very hard on parts support. That's something that they're really driving home every time we have any sort of media interaction with them. They've got like 98% parts coverage in their warehouse, and have spent millions of dollars to make sure that if you do run into a problem, you're not, your car's not in the shop for months and months like we've heard from some other brands. But, do you guys have any questions about anything about the car, or,
Well, I'm curious so the claim is 180 kilowatts, 375 Newton meters. Yes. Now that's a fair bit of power output for an SUV. I mean, Outlander's way less power.
It's like 135 with that naturally aspirated one,
Yeah, it's a wheezy engine, that Outlander. But I mean, how does it actually stack up on the road? When you actually get out there, you start driving it, and obviously you weren't loaded up with 6 passengers. But
no, yeah. So we were driving 2 up and with luggage. But so I started off in I think I drove the Ultimate first, which is the only all-wheel drive version that's on bigger wheels. That one was actually pretty good. Performance was pretty strong. There was the occasional, dual clutch transmission, shutter or whatever, which is it was still better than what I've experienced before. But once you're moving, it's got really good shove. It feels really confident on the open road, and insulation's generally okay. I think what people need to look out for is, for a car with so much power and so much torque, the front wheel drive models can be a little bit overwhelmed, even in dry weather. We didn't have any rain. We were driving from Sydney out to Terrigal, which is out on the Central Coast. And on the freeway and in town, it's fine as long as you're not being too silly. But if you're trying to get away quickly at a roundabout or shoot off at the lights, you're going to find that it just really spins those front wheels quite a bit. And that's something to look out for. But otherwise, its rolling acceleration is quite good. It gets up and going pretty well. So,
does it feel like any of the niggles have been addressed that they've kind of noted in the past?
Yeah, I think so. My memory from the Tiggo 7 was that the drivetrain needed some work. The transmission was a little bit indecisive at times, just wouldn't be doing what you would think it would be doing. And the tech still needed some work. Some of those issues remain largely with the infotainment and the driver assistance systems. The infotainment worked pretty well in terms of hooking up wireless Apple CarPlay was very easy, but if you're using the native system, some of the apps aren't labeled very well, or they sort of have a funny Chinese to English translation. And the other thing that I found personally was they have this highway lane assistant which combines adaptive cruise control and lane centering. It was better in this than what I remember from other Chery products, but it still has the odd tendency, and I found this in a couple of Chinese cars of late actually, is that I think with right-hand drivers, you sort of tend to hug the right side of the lane a little bit, and these cars hate that. So it's constantly sort of jolting at the wheel, turning you left. And it's normally not a problem on big, wide highways, but when I was driving in Sydney through their tunnel system and the left line is a wall, that's not very settling. So there was a few times where I had to turn that function off. But otherwise, the adaptive cruise worked well otherwise. The lane keep assist without the centering was fine. And, this one definitely felt more refined again with an extra layer of polish over the other stuff that I've driven from their lineup.
So coming in against the Japanese giants that are quite popular in this segment, how do you think this one compares? Do you think it's there's still got a way to go? You think it's there yet? Where's it sitting?
Look, I think what we have to remember is a lot of people are coming out of much older cars, right? So to a lot of people, this will feel almost like a Mercedes because it's designed
Mercedes
to look.
Would hate to hear that.
I know, but all of their cars right now have a very Mercedes inspired interior. You look at how the design, the layout of everything, it's very Benz inspired, and it's almost unashamedly so because they're not even trying to hide it. It definitely looks and feels and presents very well. I personally think Chery presents their interiors much better than MG and GWM. That's my personal preference. It looks very nice. I think some of the tech quibbles still need to be ironed out, but that's not to say that the other brands are perfect either. So what my recommendation would be is that if you are in the market for something like an entry-level Outlander or an X-Trail with 7 seats, and you're looking for something maybe a little bit different, or you want something with a bit more power, or something that feels a little bit nicer, and you want an alternative just to look at to see if it's for you, then do that. I wouldn't say it's my top pick, but it's definitely a step in the right direction for that brand. And it's good to see that with every car that they roll out, they're making noticeable improvements. So
I assume come next year, it'll be the Chery Tiggo 9 Pro Max because they'll just update the numbers year on year like Apple? Or?
Well, I think that the Tiggo 9 is on the cards for us as one of their new flagships. They've also got a new sub-brand called JQ, and then they've got J6, 9, and they've got all these random names for stuff as well. So I think the naming structure is definitely going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah. One thing I am curious about, and I'm curious to hear from the audience at home, either leave a comment on YouTube or write to us, podcast at carexpert.com.au. Do you want to hear James talk more about some Chinese cars he's driven recently, most notably the BYD C-Line 6.
Oh, yes.
That's what I'm curious. If anyone wants to hear him tell us about that, write to us and let us know, because if there's interest, we'll cover that one off, because I think the name is silly, but the car is not.
No, definitely.
So, yes, that's something to look forward to. All right, guys, time for our picks of the week. Josh, as our special guest, we're going to let you go first.
Sure. So I put out a story about this last week on the website, but this is about a fragrance released by Nissan, the Nismo department, called Smell My Dust. It seemed like an April Fool's joke when it came out, but it's legit. They're going to sell this fragrance. It was designed to celebrate the first Formula E race in Shanghai. So it allegedly combines the aromas of cherry blossom and tyre smoke. And
neither of those things are dust, technically.
Yeah. And there's a full advertisement video like you would see with any fragrance on TV, and it's just creepy. The voiceover, it's that whole whisper in your ear thing, but
smell my dust.
But it's talking over race cars and cherry blossoms. Okay. And I just want to quickly read the kind of explainer they attach to this.
Please go.
So I'll try and keep a straight face as well while I do it. Nissan Formula E team's new scent combines tones of Sakura, the flower displayed on the cars, with the smell of tyre remnants from the team's Nissan E-Force race cars to combine a surprising concoction. A top note of cherry blossom branches and rosemary were combined with burnt sugar and woody tones. The result is a fragrance that embodies the beauty of cherry blossom with the thrill and grit of a racing team. That's all I've got to say about it.
So when does your order arrive, right?
Igor's taking his headphones out, doesn't want to listen to this anymore.
Apparently it's going to go on sale, and I don't know if we're going to get it in Australia, but if it does find its way here, I'm definitely buying a bottle.
Okay, I'm sure it'll be in the bargain basement section of Chemist Warehouse, very sure. All right, James, maybe you could bring us back with something less sensible.
So I've stumbled across a really cool influencer or car reviewer on Instagram. Her name's she goes by the handle Laura BTLRR. I think she's French.
Butler, but Butler.
I don't know how. Don't ask. The surname's not even on her profile. But she's a really she gets access to some really, really cool stuff. So she does everything from, I think she owns a really old 70 series Land Cruiser, like one of the retro 3-door ones, which is super cool. And then
like
she
FJ40 sort of thing.
Kind of. It's like a current shape one, but with the retro,
the old shorty sort of 70.
Yeah. So she owns one of those, which is really cool. And then she also just does, quick snippet video reviews or video walkarounds of various things. The one that I found the other day was for I think I'm just going to say this right, the Eccentrica Diablo. So it's like a resto mod of the Lamborghini Diablo. And so they've basically redone the body, widened it, given it new wheels, massaged the V12 to, I think it's to 500 horsepower now. I think the old ones are in the 400. Yeah, so giving it a bit more grunt. And then inside, they've completely redone the interior. So all the plastics are now made out of aluminium. It's got like a cool gated manual transmission setup. And then they've redone the dash completely it's all digital, but it's like the dot matrix LCD stuff. So the sort of things that you would have seen in the 80s and 90s.
Like Knight Rider, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a cool car. And the way that she presents is just really upbeat, fun, and she can give you the facts, but also doesn't make it too serious that it's almost intimidating. So I've really enjoyed seeing some of her content. So make sure you go check her out if you want to see more.
All right. Well, I'm breaking rank this week, and I'm not talking about a race car.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's crazy. I went to a thing called the cinema on the weekend. I don't know whether you guys remember that, but long before Netflix was a thing, you used to go out and watch a movie at the cinemas. And I watched the new Furiosa movie, and I have a Mad Max nutter. I've always loved Mad Max. And Furiosa did not disappoint. It was brilliant. The cars in it were absolutely outstanding. So if you've seen Fury Road, a bunch of cars from that are back into this one again. They also had a Plymouth Valiant with big lift on the rear and big drag style tyres. That was running. That was one of the main character cars. Lots of Mack trucks, which is a great throwback to Mad Max 2 back in the day, which was also shot in Broken Hill where this one was. Stack of F trucks. There's an FX Holden Ute with a big blower sticking out the bonnet, which is that's a really deep cut to early Fury Road design art where they had a FX Holden that they were going to do. They never end up using Fury Road. And there may or may not have been a particular black coupe in there. So for those Mad Max fans, keep an eye out for that. Blink and you miss it, but it might be there. So check out Furiosa. It is in cinemas now. This is not sponsored by them at all. I just love it. Go and watch it. Anything Mad Max is worth watching. So, and also quick shout out Charles Leclerc for winning Monaco. That was pretty exciting.
Yes, that was really good to see.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up this week, guys?
Oh, I want to get out of this so I can go and book my Furiosa tickets because it looks great.
It is. Watch on the biggest screen you can, or at least a very big screen. It doesn't have to be the biggest one.
No gold class?
You can go gold class if you want, but then watch it again in like IMAX. James, anything from you?
I'm just keen to see what the people think about whether they want to hear about more the C-Line 6.
Just to build your dream, see what?
Yeah.
Build your dream, C-Line 6. That is really hard to say. Build your dreams, C-Line 6. Yes. It wasn't originally called that, was it?
No, it's called the Song Plus in China.
That's better.
Then it was the CLU.
Yes.
And then now it's C-Line 6.
C-Line 6. I guess big clap for the C-Line 6. Yes. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks, Josh, for taking time out of your busy day. You got to go get on a flight, but book your tickets before you get on the flight.
Thank you.
And we will be back next week, hopefully with the usual cast of misfits here. We will see you then.